So when I came here, my first memory of migration was red tape. Lots of bureaucracy, lots of paper, lots of documentation, lots of questions, lots of information. It was amazing. And the first, I also remember the difference between Colombian red tape and American red tape. Different kinds of questions, different kinds of documentations are important. Having done in Colombia, you have two last names. My name is Morillo Zárate, my father's name, my mother's name. Here you only have one last name. So when you send your two last names, they assume that your last name is your middle name. And then half of the papers are filed under one letter, everything that's lost, and it's an item. And so the differences between red tape was fascinating to me. Because it was like, why would they care about that? And like the things that they were asking me in Colombia were like also from different origins of information and databasing that they think they're relevant. And one of the things that they ask here a lot is race. They always have a little square where they ask if you're Hispanic, if you're black Hispanic, white Hispanic, brown Hispanic, or others. And it's a really good question when you've never been asked that question before. Down there, like when they have the ID, they say color of your skin, and it says quick. Everybody is the color of quick. Not like a black, a brown, kind of like, you know, party. And everybody is recognized. So everybody, you know, you don't ask that question for some reason. Even though, not to say that there are not issues of race and that are similar to those unfolding here, but that's the way that they cover it up, let's say. So I'm asking those, and it was hard for me to fill up that square because I didn't know what to say. And you know, so I had to call my parents, and I said, so what do I? You know, that happens a lot in the process of migrating, because they want to know if there's like a history of tuberculosis in the family. I don't know, so you have to call her that, hey, any TB in the family? It's like, yes, but we don't talk about it. So it's like therapy, but we're not allowed to talk about it. So anyway, it's kind of like this impossible task to gather all this unsurmountable kind of amounts of information. And the race little square was always and continues to be complicated. And so I ended up finding out that my father is black, and my mother is half Indian and half from Spanish origin. And so what's the answer on the square? They don't have that option. So it depends on what kind of like support you want to get. You're applying for a grant or something. But it did raise an interesting question, which was like, because there was such an issue of race in this country about black and white, and that it became a relevant subject matter for myself. Because once again, we don't belong to anything. You're not white, you're not black, you're not from here, you're not from there, you're nothing. So sometimes that's not good. Sometimes you want to be something. So I got interested in that as a filmmaker and a documentarist. I got interested in the idea of black culture in Latin America and how some of the differences of how cultural envelopes unfold in both places are as different as let's say, evolution of red tape. So, and being here in the Caribbean Ocean, it was interesting to. So I embarked myself in trying to find something about black culture to be said in Latin America, and we were trying to do some research about it and found out that there was like a huge population of like Afro-Latino people in South America, and the majority of the communities were located on both the Pacific and the Atlantic coast, and that a lot of very few of the community was embarked on enterprises that unfolded in the mountains, in the Andes, which is where I grew up. So once again, all this information said very little about myself. So when slaves arrived into Latin America, they came to, if that's Cuba, they brought in most of the African slaves came to Cuba, and the other second biggest port of importation of African slaves was under their paintings in Colombia, in the city of Cartagena, where my father is from. So down the Cartagena, you can embark onto the Magdalena River that takes you all the way south to where the colonies, Spanish colonists would bring African slaves into their colonies in Ecuador and Peru and Lima. And so we ended up finding about a community of black people that live in the Andes, and it was one of the few communities with that characteristics, and we started a relationship with them, and we shot a documentary about it. And we went to the village of La Concepcion in the northern Ecuadorian Andes. And it was just a fantastic experience, and it was a place that was very far away into the mountains, and there was a lot of planning involved, and we had to, it was so far removed that we had to like make sure that we had enough gas to get there and to come back. But there was, once we got there, the car had to not be used because there was only enough gas to go back to the first gas station. And it was like incredible, let's say, adventure to get there, because it was like just like a path. It wasn't really a road, and it was like under gruesome conditions, and it was scary. And finally we got there, and one of the things that was really fascinating about this place, it was that the whole village existed around what used to be an hacienda that was known as La Concepcion, which was a Jesuit hacienda in the valley of the Chota River, and which was also known as the Valley of Blood, because the incredible decimation of the Indian population that the Spaniards have implemented over there. And they went so far that they ended up having nobody to work over there, and they brought African slaves to work on the sugarcane plantations. And the small town of La Concepcion is it's like basically two rows of houses that exist surrounding the old hacienda. And one of the things that was the most interesting to me was that the old hacienda is now in ruins, and it's all falling apart, and like nobody goes there. And it's the epicenter of everything that is bad in the community. If ever somebody gets a cold, it came from there, because this hacienda is the origin. It's very, very similar to George Bush's Axis of Evil, and which I thought maybe that's where he got that idea. But this place actually existed, and it was a geographical location where you can go to, and this is what everything that was bad that happened to everybody in this community came from. And if it was affecting you, all you had to do was just to like, go far away from it. And if the problems in your family and in your life were too big, you just left the village for a couple of years and then came back, and eventually the relationship with anything that was bad in your life was originated in that place. And it occurred to me that it was a great place to film an interview with one of the persons that we met there. And she was going to tell us a story about how people from this community had been migrating to the city in view of like job opportunities and better living conditions. So we thought that was a great place to do an interview. There was a lot of discussions about like, do we really want to go to the axis of evil and have a conversation there? But we ended up doing it, and the place had a weird vibe, to say the least. There was something about it that there was a certain restlessness there. And within the ruins of the hacienda, there was it was kind of falling apart, and the walls were made out of adobe, and there was still like some leftovers of the old, the Spanish roofs and ceilings of the house. And I wandered around that place for a little bit, and ended up finding this window. It was a window that was made out of wood, and you opened it, and when you opened it, you can see the entire village. And it occurred to me that this was a place where whoever had that gruesome idea of colonizing that place and doing it under the terms and conditions that they did it, that's where he or she like looked up at what they had done and kind of like observed what was going on. And I was compelled that's where I found my object. And I had a pair of pliers in my pocket, and I was just compelled to bring the window latch with me for some mysterious reason. Because it was the window where you can look out at from the place where everything that is bad comes from. And we're far away from it.